Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. In the 1970s, Austrian prehistorian Karl Kromer led excavations at Giza in Egypt, in an area just south of the main pyramid field and to the west of the lost city of pyramid builders, also known as Heit el-Ghurab. Over 6 seasons of investigation, he and his team cut 10 excavation trenches into a crescent-shaped mound, which looked to be made up of settlement debris. Now, we all love to hear about excavations and analysis of Old Kingdom tombs, temples and pyramids, but Kromer was excavating something far less glamorous. Yes, this really was an Old Kingdom dump, and while some explorers and researchers get pyramid chambers named after them, the pile of trash in question is now forever known as the Kromer Dump. But nobody should scoff at Kromer having such an association, because Old Kingdom trash really is an archaeologist's treasure, and we can learn so much about the real people of the Pyramid Age. And the quantity and preservation of finds from Kromer's dump really was quite amazing. Based on his finds, Kromer believed the mound was demolition debris from a royal rest house or settlement, dating from the 1st to 4th dynasties up until the time of Khufu and Khafre. Although Giza does have some early dynastic tombs just south of the main pyramid field, as well as a handful of pre-dynastic finds on the plateau, the proposed age of the finds in the Kromer dump meant that this really was a very intriguing site, being possible further evidence of people living at Giza long before the first stone of the Great Pyramid was laid. But the evidence for such an early age was scant and debatable, so, due to the importance of the site and the questions surrounding it, in 2018, the Ancient Egypt Research Associates or AERA reinvestigated the Kromer dump. Technology and archaeological techniques had come on a long way over the 40 plus years since the first excavations, so a new investigation was a fantastic opportunity to learn more. But reinvestigating the dump was not easy. Kromer's 1970s map had errors, and drifting sand had covered up the area. After digging 2 trenches, the archaeologists finally got their bearings and soon knew exactly where they were on Kromer's excavation grid, and they extended the trenches into untouched parts of the mound. It was confirmed that this was certainly a giant trash heap created by dumping basket after basket of settlement debris, brought through the desert by hand to this specific area of Giza. The mode of deposition meant you could cut through the mound and map tip lines, specific deposits where each unit had a different colour, texture and compaction. The tip lines in the new trench, labelled 185, were diagonal deposits of orange windblown sand, white limestone debris, dark brown decomposed mud brick and ashy settlement waste, with a fantastic array of cultural finds running through the mound. The mound can roughly be divided into 2 dumping activities. An early one where tip lines dip down in a westerly direction, where it looks like people were tipping from east to west, and a later phase in the opposite direction, where it looks like people were tipping from the west towards the east. The mound was rich in Old Kingdom finds, but how old was the trash? Kromer found a number of clay ceilings inside the dump. These are small pieces of clay impressed with hieroglyphic designs. The designs were carved onto small cylinders, and these were rolled out over clay before it dried, securing strings to locks, packages and so on. Ceilings would be used by administrators to secure packages and doors, and they would often bear the job title of the official that sealed it, as well as the pharaoh they served. Therefore, seals are clear chronological markers, and if you find them in the various units of dump waste, you do have a good idea of the age of the waste being thrown out. Some of them were hard to make out, and Kromer believed they could be early dynastic, but the vast majority belonged to Khufu and Khafre, and all of the ceilings came out of the earliest phase of dumping activity. Kromer found 5 Khufu ceilings, but sadly the team from 2018 found none. They did find more than 40 from the reign of Khafre to add to the 38 Khafre ceilings found by Kromer, including one made by the scribe of royal documents and another from the keeper of royal instructions. There were also ceilings relating to the purification priest and the high priest. So, the evidence suggests that in the main, this is a 4th dynasty dump, because the Khufu and Khafre ceilings are found in the oldest layers. Kromer's discovery of possible pre-Khufu finds was not conclusive, and was very much his interpretation. And sadly, no other finds were discovered in 2018 to indicate the trash predated the 4th dynasty pyramid builders. So far, no radiocarbon dates from the vast array of bones and organic material have been published, and I don't even know if testing has taken place. So, at present, the dating of the dump is relative, and based on the clay ceilings. So it looks like this is a 4th dynasty dump, but where did the waste come from? What was found inside? Throughout the dump, a whole array of small finds were abundant, including fragments of tools made from wood, bone and stone, pottery, beads and fragments of metal. There were copper needles, spatulas, fish hooks and small figurines. There were pieces of alabaster and travertine vessels. There was a stone table, a piece of carnelian, and a possible piece of decorative inlay. Chipped stone tools include sickle blades, knife fragments and a projectile point. The conditions of the site, being dry sediment at a high elevation, meant that organic material could survive. Fragments of wood, reed, twine and rope were found. There was straw and palm fronds, textiles, leather and even wool. The dump even helps us to understand what was growing, with a record of edible and weedy plants, seeds from figs and more. We also find goat, sheep and cattle bones, and these show evidence of being cut, split and drilled for their marrow. Vast amounts of clay were also in abundance, believed to have been applied to the tops of vessels, maybe for food and drink storage, to seal them shut. Unlike the vessels themselves, the clay lids were very crude and were roughly applied onto their tops. You could say like putting cling film over a bowl of food. The bowl is well made, but the cling film lid is a quick, efficient and short-term way to cover the contents. In effect, wet clay was Old Kingdom cling film. So, although the entire dump has offered some fantastic finds, the earliest phase, the lowest layers are actually quite different. As well as the high-status Khufu and Khafre clay ceilings, here we also find plastered door jambs, patches of hard gravel screed flooring, an abundance of mud bricks, and plaster that was painted in blue, white, black and red, and also carefully painted dados. All aspects of a structure were found. There was roof fragments, floor fragments, corners, hearths and so on. And the architectural finds are consistent with an important elite building or multiple buildings that look to have been demolished and then deposited at the Kromer Dump. In the 1970s, Kromer also believed the early dump material belonged to an elite structure, and if the material came from one specific large building, he thought it could be the remains of a royal roadhouse or small palace. This is also backed up by another ceiling that was discovered in 2018, a small fragment with the bottom of an unrecognisable Horus name, as well as the words Setep Za that were written in hieroglyphs, together with the hieroglyph for house. This is an Old Kingdom Egyptian way of writing royal palace. Setep Za was where the king sat to receive counsel and make decisions on craftwork, building and construction. And so, it does make sense for it to have been built on the Giza plateau, in amongst the major construction works. This was not likely the main permanent royal residence, but maybe the place the king stayed at when visiting his pyramid project, to oversee the progress, i.e. a royal roadhouse as Kromer alluded to. So it looks like the earliest demolition debris could have come from a small royal palace, but where was it? Well, that really is the million-dollar question. As stated, the earliest layers look to have been tipped into the dump from east to west, so you could easily assume the royal roadhouse or small palace, the high-status building, was located in the east before being demolished. But to the east of the Kromer Dump we have the city of pyramid builders, occupied during the times of Khafre and Menkaure, and although there have been extensive excavations of the city in recent years, there is no evidence, no old foundations or finds, to suggest there was once a royal palace in this area. So, are there any other possible candidate sites? The Kromer Dump is a place that people went to on foot to deposit basket after basket of waste, so it's unlikely the material came from far away. Here we turn to the work of Egyptologist Selim Hassan, who excavated Giza in the 1930s. He found remnants of a large multicoloured plastered building in the Khufu town. The structure had more than one phase of work, meaning it was an older structure that had been reworked. It's known today as Building M, marked here, a palace-like structure with thicker walls, painted plaster and an audience hall. Such an elaborate structure in the Khufu town is out of place, and experts believe this could be the Setep Za of the Giza Plateau, a small royal palace used by Khufu and Khafre when inspecting their pyramid works. It could well have been partly demolished, maybe by Menkaure when he was building his valley temple, and the debris was taken away to the south, to the area we now call the Kromer Dump. The site of Building M is in a prime location, being central on the Giza Plateau, right on the edge of a man-made harbour connected to the Nile, and recent excavations have showed that grand structures did occupy this region, and this was before the Khufu town was built. Maybe in the times of Khufu and Khafre, the whole region was a royal headquarters, and maybe this explains the Phase 1 palace facade decoration that we find on the southern side of the tomb of Khufu, as discussed in my last video. So, if this is correct, we now have possible context for an earlier phase of work in and around the tomb of Khufu. So, in summary, new excavations showed no further evidence of anything older than the 4th dynasty in the Kromer Dump. We also know there were 2 phases of dumping, and the earliest phase could be from the demolition of a royal roadhouse or small palace. Where it was located we don't know, but it could well have been close to where we find the Menkaure Valley Temple, and if so, it was likely completely or partly demolished by King Menkaure. Until we have more analysis of the Kromer finds, we don't really know a lot more. So next I'll be taking a closer look at Building M in the Khufu town as we hunt for a lost royal palace of Giza. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.